All right, so there are three main goals of the session. So basically, it's to gain a better understanding of what data and reports are available to you, the importance of learning from data, and how to interact with the research portal and to access data and reports. So this is our department, Research and Development Services. As a department, we are involved in statistics, software development, automation, database management, and reporting. We design, conduct, and support internal research and program evaluation projects. We review external research and program evaluation applications as part of the Research Advisory Committee. We build and design surveys, and we are also responsible for knowledge mobilization. And this includes performing literature reviews, creating summary reports, and supporting data literacy and the use of data. So this last part, supporting data literacy and the use of data, is the main reason that we're all here today for this workshop. So we've arranged this session as well as the entire Collecting and Utilizing Data workshop series because we are committed to helping school administrators and staff with collecting data, evaluating, and using data. So supporting data literacy. So the data literacy is a huge priority for the Ministry of Education. MISA, which stands for Managing Information for Student Achievement, is a ministry initiative that involves the promotion and capacity building for boards and schools to work with data and effectively use information for evidence-informed decision-making. So the ultimate goal is to promote accessing existing data and collecting new data that can be used to inform decisions and professional practice, and ultimately the end goal is to support student achievement. So Lisa is our MISA lead, and she strives to adopt the MISA's vision within our board. Sorry, the L's mixed me up. Lisa/Laura is our MISA lead. Thank you, Jen. All right, so not only is using data to promote learning a ministry priority, it's also a board priority as well. So the evidence-informed decision-making aligns with the HCDSB strategic plan, as you can see, number 3. So it is deemed as a standard approach to planning and improvement efforts. So number 3 reads, results-based accountability and evidence-informed decision-making are the standard approaches to planning and improvement efforts. So as a foundational element, evidence-informed decision-making is part of the foundation for our 3 pillars, achieving, believing, and belonging. So now Jen's going to go through what evidence-informed decision-making looks like and why it is important. And then she will break down the types of data available to you in the board, which will lead into Alan's presentation on that portal that we're going to get more into.
Thanks, Zoe. So as Zoe kind of alluded to, our ultimate goal is to have system-wide evidence-informed decision-making. That means that board, school, and classroom leaders use data or evidence, we're going to use those terms a little bit interchangeably, systematically to inform professional practice and make improvements to support student success. So evidence-informed decision-making involves interpreting and learning from relevant data, so you're better able to make choices. And as you are all very well aware, we make so many choices every day. Some of them are simple and don't require much thoughts, like which way to turn a doorknob handle, although I kind of mess that up sometimes. Or sometimes you want to make decisions based on convenience or past experience, like what to order from a menu at a restaurant. And sometimes you want to base decisions on intuition, like how to comfort your own child or what not to wear. But in school environments, we're suggesting that decisions that will have an impact on students should not rely on hunches, tradition, or convenience, but instead utilize data. Now, just to take a step back, data normally refers to kind of objective facts. Could be quantitative, like numbers or scores that you're kind of used to seeing, or qualitative, so where you would take feedback from people, often collected through surveys, focus groups, that kind of thing. So that's like the main definition of data. But then you can't really use raw data for anything. You have to analyze it, then interpret it. So you would bring in your own knowledge a little bit at that point. And then you want to use that to create information and evidence. So another name for evidence-informed decision-making that many of you may have heard is data-driven decision-making. So I'm going to go into a table here, kind of comparing traditional versus evidence-informed decision-making. So it highlights some differences between those two kinds of approaches in a variety of areas, like goal setting, budgetary decisions, meetings. So if you want to take just a quick look at what you see there and kind of think about whether any of this looks familiar to you. I'm not saying that you do this, but maybe you've seen some of this happen in your experiences. Okay, So now we're saying we want to move from those traditional ways to more data-driven decision-making. So we're going to see things like goal setting based on data about problems and possible explanations instead of based on fads or favorite initiatives or things like that. Staff development programs that are kind of focused and have improvement strategies to address problems or needs. In the past, maybe budgetary decisions could have been based on prior practice or priority programs, but now maybe think about allocating budgets based on stakeholder feedback or other data indicating where there's a need. One of the reasons for having these workshops is I was approached by a principal who wanted to collect the data on parent council feedback on which areas they should focus their school-generated funds. So I thought that was great that he was really interested in data-driven decision-making, and that was kind of a precursor to some of this. Staff meetings that focus on strategies and issues raised by school data rather than on operations or disseminating information. Just those kinds of things. That's kind of what we're trying to move to. So this slide basically summarizes the importance of evidence-informed decision-making, where you're going to see things like using data to assess the needs of students. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with that already, but also to determine if goals are being met and monitor goals, to engage in school improvement, which is quite common as well, determine professional development needs, provide differentiated instruction, which could link to that. There are 4 main types of data collected or used by schools. Some of this might look familiar if any of you have ever been exposed to the collaborative inquiry approach, where you are collecting evidence, and it's usually in these 4 different categories. So we have student learning data, demographic, perceptual or attitudinal data, and school process or program data. It might be a good idea for you to kind of think about which ones you currently use or would like to use in your school. Maybe you'll be surprised by some of what you have access to make decisions or answer questions. So as I said, student learning data is pretty common for collaborative inquiries, but it's basically how students are progressing, looking at assessments and evaluations of student learning. And often in collaborative inquiry, we would use student work products or observations or conversations, but there's a whole bunch of other examples as shown here. So we have marks, pass rates, graduation rates, test scores. So we talked about EQAO and the literacy reports. And there's an asterisk next to that and a few other things. Those are all available on the research portal, which we're going to continue plugging throughout this whole session. So as you know, those are available once a year. Then we have post-secondary destinations. Does anyone know that the board collects this information from secondary level? Yeah. So it's basically where the students are applying to once they leave our board and their acceptance rates.
Rates of acceptance or confirmation rates.
Yeah, so that's something that you'll all have access to as a report, not as raw data. So that's on the portal. We have the EDI that Alan will show you in a little bit, the Early Development Instrument. We have a report from there on the portal. And then we have a bunch of other things I'm sure you have at your fingertips with Trillium data. So another type of data is demographic. So that's really looking at describing the school context or board context. That could be regarding students, staff, or the school community, parish, or parents. So some examples, when you think of demographics, you often think about gender, age, grade, ethnicity, that kind of thing. But we also have information about special needs or IEPs. Enrollment is a big one for answering research questions often. Attendance, and actually Alan's going to show you a really cool report that he's putting together. It's an app on visualizing attendance and absences. So that's something that you might be interested in. Registration. He also is going to show you some cool map-like reports with census data, looking at things like unemployment rate, median income in different areas on a map. So that might help you understand where you're situated. Crystal reports have other things like suspensions or incidents. I think that's a SpecEd report. So that's mainly student level, but then for staff, you might want to look at things like what is the context of your staff in terms of qualifications, years of experience, professional development, that kind of thing. Perceptual data. where we're asking for attitudes or values or beliefs or feelings or opinions. Like, how do students or parents or staff perceive the learning environment? What are their perceptions of a program or a policy or a session? So it's, as I said before, it's kind of what you think of survey research or focus groups or interviews normally. It could be qualitative or quantitative. So for the examples, first one there, school climate reports. So those are collected, as you know, every 2 years. So this year is an off year, but it'll come up again next year, and maybe some exciting changes. Last year, there was one different change, and that was that the staff survey did not just go to teachers or educators, it went to all staff in the schools. So we were able to provide that level of reporting as well. So that, you see the asterisk, that's on the portal for the different schools. The parent survey, the response rate wasn't great, so I'm not sure how many people have actually seen that report. I believe it was only board level in the end that we shared, and maybe not advertised too well. Has anyone seen the parent school climate reports yet? You have? Okay, perfect. They're on the portal at the board level. We have strategic plan monitoring. We've asked stakeholders across the board, not just students, but staff, parents, parishioners, that about whether they thought things were working well or what they thought needed improvement with the strategic plan. At the board level, we do have that on the portal as well. Program evaluation reports. We conduct usually board level initiative type program evaluation. So far, none of that is up there, but if anyone's interested in anything we may have done that might inform like some of your programming in the future, then we can definitely put some of those up there too. Professional development session feedback. Zoe is constantly doing surveys, asking for feedback on what you thought of a session or PD or workshop. Like, we have one at the end today. We have to practice what we preach. School process data is basically just program data, descriptions of instructional practices, programs, or approaches. So it's kind of like the way you do business, or administrative data, you can call it, including staff assignments, budget allocations, expenditures, things like that. So we don't really have that on the portal. It's a thing. So, I mean, all of these things were quite separate, all these different types of data. But I wanted to bring this up here as kind of a reminder that you're not supposed to look at one particular data source in isolation. When conducting research, you want to be able to triangulate data from a variety of different perspectives and methods and measures, if possible, to get a broader view of things, like a more complete picture. So using different data sources in combination, you'll get a broader view of the school and a much richer answer to any questions you have. So when you look at one measure, for example, you can answer questions like how many students are enrolled at the school this year, or how satisfied are students with the learning environment. But sometimes you want to intersect them and look at things like school processes in combination with student learning. And then you can answer questions like whether a program is making a difference in student learning. So then when you analyze these various sources of evidence and knowledge, these various sources of evidence, you can create knowledge, and then you can use that knowledge to inform your actions and hopefully achieve results that will help the students. And this is just what I was just saying before. Using multiple data sources provides a more complete picture of what you're looking for to best meet student learning needs. This is not necessarily in order, or you don't need to do all of these steps, and then the arrow, as you can see, loops back. But basically, first you want to have a question in mind. You can, maybe it helps to like look through these kinds of examples that I gave of different data sources and think about what you have available and come up with a question. What do you want to find out about? What will help you make your decisions? So once you kind of know what you want to find out about, you would want to access the relevant data, maybe not analyze it, but you would want to interpret it, and then use your own knowledge of the data to make your informed decisions and improvements, and develop acting on the strategies. And then the sixth step comes in because you really want to see how the strategies are working, kind of monitor how things are going, and then bring it back to the beginning. And maybe you want to repeat the cycle, ask different questions, or clarify things, collect and access new data.
really excited to share this with you because it is more of a practical thing that we had to solve, how to share data effectively with people, how to put it in a spot that's secure and organized and easy for users to get to. I feel really bad for you guys because we produce a lot of data and I'm sure you get a lot of data from other places. We really didn't want you to have to go to OneDrive for one thing, and email for another thing, StaffNet for heaven's sakes for another thing. We really didn't want you to have and because the analyses are only going to get more interesting, and one of the practical things you have to solve is at the beginning, before you do any crazy stats, you really just need to make it easy for people to get these reports. There's no point in doing something really interesting if it's people are, they're not inspired to go and find it because it's everywhere. So this was one of the things that we wanted to do. And there's nothing much to it. It's really just a single hub. And from that location, you can access all of the core research reports that we develop in our department. But it's not just a file share like Dropbox or Google Drive or something. It's also a hub that can route you to applications. So we develop lots of like web applications and different interactive charts and different sort of like more fancy things. And this is actually now the hub that will take you to those things. So rather than remembering 10 different links, how do I get to this application? How do I get to this report? It's a single link, and then everything is just organized there for you. And it's pretty beta right now. So as you can see, there are still some wrinkles I have to iron out. But this was completely customized, built from scratch for you, for staff at the CEC by our department. Well, with lots of input from everybody. Once you log in, obviously it's your single sign-on. So again, we didn't want you to have to remember a new username and password. That's just the worst. So we have that based on your staffing group. So of course your principals and others, you basically have access to what's called a group. You might be familiar with that terminology from Active Directory, working with IT. So each school is their own group, or each principal vice principal has a school group. You saw them kind of come up on a list there. And we have a group, the research group, but we can also have a group for social workers, or any kind of staffing group we want. And so I have access to the research group, the board group, St. Luke and St. Thomas Aquinas. I just have them there for an example. On the main page of the portal, you'll see a couple of things. One thing you'll see is this little chat window. So if you have a question about anything in the portal, like you think something is missing or there's a problem, like where are my data? There are no data here. You can just send me a message if you want in here. And this is a community chat. So everybody who logs into the portal will be able to see your message. So careful what you say. And when you send it, I'll get an email. And the reason why this is up here is because I just wanted to show you that from time to time on the front page of the portal, we may draw your attention to some kind of important resource. Like let's say we just released something really cool, a new report or something, or maybe it's just something we're really proud of and we want to share it with everybody. We might just put it right on the home page and feature it. And this also demonstrates that the portal can support embedded videos. So if we have training videos, or like this thing that we're doing here, we can actually embed the video right on in your browser. It makes it really easy to work with. So that's the main page. All of the data I'm going to show you, as Laura said, this is not about interpreting charts really or anything right now. This is just about showing you that we have this thing. It's really easy to get into. And I'll just kind of scroll through a couple reports just so you can get the feel for some of the actual contents here. But all of the data are fake, okay? Pretty much all of it. So hopefully I won't be showing anything I'm not supposed to show. So we can start with the board level group. You don't have to click a bunch of times in the portal either. Basically, if you see that floating logo, it means it's thinking. If you click it 5 times, it just has to think 5 times, so it's going to take 5 times longer. Nothing too crazy here, just a list of folders that we organize. We usually organize things in terms of project name and school year or calendar year. So you'll usually see project name and then some kind of year. It's a nice way to have things organized for you. And we'll try not to flood this with dozens and dozens and dozens of things, because then it defeats the purpose. Then you have to dig through everything. So maybe we'll start with this OCAS, OUAC Oh, you can also, and please do, if you like the report, give it a thumbs up. You should, and
That's more data.
really, you should really do that, because it helps us to know if our reports are actually enjoyed by people, if they're actually useful. If you give it a thumbs down, then we'll fix it for you. Okay. Don't give it a thumbs down based on the results, just on whether you like our general report. Okay, so let's open one of these guys up just to show you. So when you click on those links, it will open up a page, hopefully, as long as there's no bugs. And usually at the top of our reports, of course, we're going to have like a table of contents and some background information in terms of what is actually in the reports. Currently, our reports are generally very long because the spreadsheets that hold all of our data have tons of variables in them. And we're working on ways of making the charts maybe a bit more interactive, so you can choose the kind of view or angle of the data you're looking, sort of like what you were saying with that kind of more interactive style. This will actually have the effect of shortening the reports and make it easier for you to look at the information that you're actually interested in, as opposed to just sort of giving everything to you in this huge 60-page PDF and then you have to dig around. So we're working on moving in that direction. You can see some evidence of that here. So this is some OCAS data. Basically, we have data on where the kids go after they graduate, whether they apply to college only or university only, or whether they're applying to both or neither. And then we have a whole bunch of other variables that we can look at. But what's cool about these charts, and you can just kind of see if you just think ahead how we're moving to these more interactive reports. This is mildly interactive, but it allows us to kind of create these clean looking charts, but have this is called a tooltip. If you hover over some of the points, it will actually expose or reveal some extra information. And we can do all kinds of really, really interesting things with the browser and interaction now. And we hope that that'll help you guys, because sometimes it's hard where you look at a percentage, you have no idea how many students that actually corresponds with. So I'm just going to zip down to the bottom and show you something really crazy. This is an extreme example of interaction, and don't worry, our reports are not going to end up looking like this all the time. But this is a bit of an Easter egg at the end of this report for all the good readers who got to the end, and they get to enjoy this kind of fun little thing. So I sort of hid it at the bottom of the report. But what this shows is the cross-section between school and college, and I also have a separate chart for universities. But so if you look at Sheridan College, you see Cher here, and the cross-section is here with Aquinas, let's say, right, and all the other schools. Sheridan is kind of like an artsy school, right? So if you click on this dot, it will filter this chart below and show you how many students were confirmed in the various programs in Sheridan. So you're looking at the school, the college, and then the programs themselves. So for any school and for any school or any college or university, you can see how many went for each program. You can see the breakdown. So, and it's no surprise that if you scroll across Sheridan, the different schools, you see applied arts is high. So, or like in the university one, here's university. Brock, I know Brock is kind of a business school, so you can look at business is the number one program across many the Brock dots. The size of the dot represents how many students actually went to that university from that school. So another interesting thing about where we're headed with interactive reports is oftentimes you guys are, I assume, making your own presentations or taking a subset of these. Every chart is going to, I think every chart is going to have a widget so you can save it as a PNG or save the file, and then you can drag that into your PowerPoint if you want a subset. Yeah. So this is where we're trying to move. Static reports, they're just not enough, right? So I'm going to go into the census data right now, just because I really want to show you how cool this is. We buy this data that gives us numbers in the Halton region, actually all across Ontario. And it allows us to make these slippy maps. So it's kind of like Google Maps, sort of, but it's not. And we can chart all the, sort of like the SRI variables. We can chart them on a map, and we can plot the schools as little markers. So you can see the different schools, and then you can look, you can hover with your mouse. There's another tooltip to see the unemployment rate in various areas, and which correspond to this color bar up here at the top. It's fun if you have time to go and find your neighborhood or your friend's neighborhood, and and look at various things. Again, we buy this data from somebody. It doesn't come like this. It's just a gigantic spreadsheet, and then we code all of this to make this happen. But it's possible that that company could mess things up too. So if you see something that doesn't look right, let me know. Here's the literature reviews that Zoe made. You can look at how many there are. It's crazy. So give those a thumbs up. And yeah, if you're interested in Best Buddies, just click it, and there you go. You got your PDF for Best Buddies. You know, everything you need to know. Okay, we have to keep moving. I just really quickly want to show you what I was talking about at the beginning, that this isn't just for sharing files, but also for routing you to applications. So I have some sample applications here, but some of which you'll probably be very interested in. So, okay, so we can at least look at this attendance visualizer. So we're working with the social workers right now, developing an application that allows you to investigate your attendance. So how many, so who are the students who are away, let's say for 10 consecutive days or 15 consecutive days or something. We really want to make it easy for you guys to see this on the fly whenever you want. It's not released right now to principals. It's actually not released to anybody. This is sort of an early preview, but we are working in this direction. And this is, again, fake data, but this is sort of what it would look like, where on the left you have all the schools, okay? And this shows the number of students who, this little number here, shows the number of students who are away for 10 consecutive days, at least one time. And the date is always from the beginning of the school year to the current time. This is fake data though, so again, if you're from Jean Vanier, which weirdly has the code MILTS, and I don't know why they didn't call it JEAN or something, but the cool thing is, again, this is interactive with tooltips, and if you click on Jean Vanier in this case, it filters this chart to show you the actual students and the dates that they've been away, which yeah, we want to make it quick for you guys. It's probably quicker than running a Crystal report.
Absolutely.
And then we also have habitual absences too. So if you're not concerned with the consecutive nature of the dates, you can just go down here. So the last thing are the kindergarten profiles. I have had so many iterations of doing this for you guys. But are you all familiar with accessing the kindergarten profiles? So it's like every student that registers in our board has to fill out this lengthy form about early childhood experiences and things. It's been historically very difficult to find a way to share these things with you guys, to keep them independent so you're seeing only what you need to see. But now I just made this as another application. So if you're a principal, you go on, you want to see your kindergarten profiles, like somebody was just saying, they want to know about their students' specific details. You want to be flipping through a bunch of SE17s or whatever. It's very similar to this. You can just click on your student's name and it will show you the live profile that they filled out. Now, I'm obviously not going to click on these students' names, but if I scroll to the very end, I have some test data here. First name, test data, last name, test data. And you can see their profile. This is just fake data, but it just comes up right here and it would say their name, and you can just scroll through your students. And it's refreshed live every time you click the student's name, so you're never waiting for responses. Okay, that's everything.